So, welcome everybody to another episode of Ascension with A Course in Miracles. And I am Laina Orlando. And today is June the 18th. This year is flying by. But if you understand what's happening, if you understand the shift in consciousness that humanity is undergoing, that we are in the process of ascension, then you get why what is happening. And I mean, every bit of it, the good, the bad, and the ugly, if we want to call it that. You understand why it's happening. It is necessary for ascension. It is absolutely necessary that what is of the ego, what is the old ways, come into the light of our awareness. So things are being exposed that need to be exposed, not because we didn't know that they were happening, but because those of us who are awake need to look at them and forgive them. That is why A Course in Miracles was given to us 50 years ago. It was given to us to train our minds, to prepare us. There are too many spiritual people, especially in the New Age movement, too many Christian people, too many religious people who are living their lives in total, complete denial of how powerful we are and using it if they're aware of our power, which is, you hear that a lot in religious groups and New Age. Oh, yeah, we know we're one with the Creator. We know we're powerful beyond measure. We know our thoughts create our reality. However, that knowledge at the level of the head is, I'm not going to say it's useless, but it doesn't get you out of the situation you're in. It just helps you rearrange the furniture on the deck of the Titanic. It'll look prettier. Yes, for a long time I had wonderful information in my head and everything seemed prettier. My life seemed rosier because I had all these wonderful quotes that I could recite and I felt good about whatever crystals I might have had or whatever cards I was pulling for my deck of the week of cards that I would buy at the store. The metaphysical bookstores loved me because I was constantly buying things. However, the change was not happening inside of me until I began to use A Course in Miracles as it is intended. In the very beginning of A Course in Miracles, in the instructions, we are told we are not to alter the text. We're simply to take what we can at any given moment and apply it. That is it. All we have to do is apply it by the letter. You have to do exactly what it tells you if you want to experience change. What has happened with so many, most of the course students, is they take it and they reinterpret it. Now, there is nothing wrong with that because anybody who's reinterpreting the course is at a beginner level. If you were at a more advanced level, which is why I teach my classes I do it in 3 stages. Those who are in the beginning and the curiosity, those who are developing a foundation, and those who are practicing mastery, because those are 3 different stages, like elementary, middle school, high school are 3 different things. You don't take a high schooler, you don't take an 18-year-old and send them to kindergarten, although some should be in kindergarten. I'm speaking about my children. But anyhow, we have to understand that we learn in specific stages. And the reason for that is the mind has to be trained with a foundation, with a general understanding. We're expanding our awareness. In the beginning, you can only take so much. Once I started on this journey, and I started hearing all these different concepts. In the beginning, I could only take a little bit of it. I couldn't change my whole life after one workshop. But my mind was being, filled with these little seeds of truth that they all began to grow and to flower at different stages of the journey. That is totally okay. Nobody is wrong about anything that they're doing. I share information to inspire those who are ready to hear certain vibrational advanced frequencies. It resonates with you. If it doesn't resonate with you, then you're in some of the other stages because what I share here is the absolute deepest truth. And it's no different than what Jesus taught when he was here 2,000 years ago, because it's exactly what has been given to us through the Course in Miracles. So I welcome everybody in these transmissions and in any of my classes to take what resonates and leave what doesn't. But I also invite anybody who is new to what I am doing. If you enjoyed these transmissions and you want to go a little deeper with me, then come to the Awareness Academy. I always put the link in all of my YouTube posts. Come to the Awareness Academy and you can try it for free in the curiosity stage. You can go a little deeper in the foundation stage, or you can go really deep in the mastery class. We talk about some far out things, but your mind has to be ready to really accept how powerful we are. The reason we must accept our power is because when we do, then we need to become responsible in how we're using it. It is not the intention of the course, although I am sure Jesus understands, and I listen to this in some of the channelings that are done by those who are channeling Jesus directly. Because a course tells you, if you go to the manual for teachers, it tells you so many want the peace of God, but few will do what is necessary to have that peace. And the reason few will do that is because it requires a purification of your mind. That means you've got to recognize that most of our thinking is totally complete lies. They are, so let me qualify that. They are true in the lower dimensional world. In the third dimensional world that the ego has made, it is true that you have to protect yourself and defend yourself, and that you have to, be careful about the liars and the cheaters and, the people who are going to take advantage of you. That is what happens when we listen to the ego. And to the ego, all of that, all of that is true, that you have to protect yourself and defend yourself and attack those who do something to you, which is why wars are everywhere, because our minds have been trained into accepting that it is true to be at war, that this world is a battleground because it's a battleground inside of us. We have been conditioned from the very beginning of each of our incarnations. When we enter as a baby, every baby is conditioned to believe what their parents believe, what their church believes, what their teachers believe, what their government, however, their culture believe. And then we believe that that's the only way. And then we defend that. So if we're okay defending, we're going to be okay attacking. But that is because we are protecting that which is not true. But what is not true, capital T, not true, is true, lowercase t, to the ego. The Course tells us the ego is a total, complete inversion of the truth. It is inside out, upside down from the truth. The process of purification it takes a lot of courage, and courage is a very high frequency right up here. Let me move my little plan over a little bit. Courage is right up there. And to have courage, which is um, a willingness to really question what you believe. When you're prepared to experience courage, is because you really have decided you're sick and tired of being sick and tired. You are ready to shed what is not true and claim what is your truth, which is, by the way, your inheritance as God created you. But our egoic self is very concerned with, well, I don't want to be wrong. What are people going to think about me? I taught my children that this is the way things are. Now I've got to tell them that I taught them all kinds of wrong things. Yes and no. Yes, we have to admit that we pass down misinformation, but no, because when we forgive ourselves, we realize, I didn't do this to intentionally to hurt you. I just handed to you what was handed to me. And when we begin to be the courageous one that questions, was mom right? Was dad right? Was grandpa right? Did what they tell me, was it true? Capital T, true? And we begin to sort things out, the wheat and the chaff. What is true with the capital T is wheat. It will nourish you. What is true with a lowercase t is chaff. It'll fill you up. You'll think you're full because all that stuff is going to accumulate in your belly and you're going to think you're full, but you're not nourished. So we have to understand to sort these things out. The reason we need to sort them out is because those who are nourished by the truth, capital T truth of the wheat of the essence that is the wisdom that is inside of the teachings of something like A Course in Miracles, when we're nourished with that, we are gaining sustenance that is going to make us stronger, not only mind, body, spirit, but it's going to allow us to do the deepest, hardest work that there is. And that is to forgive ourselves for having forgotten that we are divine sparks of light, for having completely fallen into a trance for decades. And some of us, we've been at it for lifetimes. We have forgotten the truth of who we are. And when we forget the truth of who we are, we fall for whatever we think will protect us. This is why we practice defending ourselves and attacking others, because we've been taught that you got to be right. If you're wrong, well, then you messed up. Well, Course in Miracles tells us that the work that we're doing to retrain our mind is going to be the opposite of what the world taught us. So here, instead of being scared of being wrong, you want to be excited that you were wrong. Because in the excitement that you were wrong, you realize, well, there's another way. And you can't find that other way if you're busy protecting the only way that you know. And that only way that you know, if it's incorrect, you won't question it. So if you need to be right, you will not question things, which is why one of the characteristics of a teacher of God, once you move down this path and you're entering into mastery, is open-mindedness. To be open-minded means you can hear what anybody has to say and you don't get offended. You don't get offended because you don't need to be right. And the reason you don't need to be right is because you know the truth, capital T, and they're right. Little r, lowercase r, they're right. Everybody is right at the level of consciousness that they are at. The ego is right for the ego. God is right for God. We have to decide which side are we picking. Are we going to nourish ourselves with the wheat, with the essence of the truth? Or are we going to dabble in with the chaff and we're satisfied just filling up our belly, feeling like we're full of knowledge, but not actually using it and practicing it? We are creators of our reality. That is how we create our reality. Humanity, planet Earth, has been creating reality with a bunch of lies. The main one that the Course in Miracles tells you, the number one problem that humanity has is that we have an authority problem. We have given power away to external authorities. We gave it to our father, to our mother, to our teacher, to our preacher, to the government, to the media, to the medical system, to the education system. We gave it to the Catholic, the all the religious institutions. We said, you have authority over me. All of that is what the ego does to us. When our head is full of that nonsense, well, of course, we can't make sense of what the Course is teaching us, which is that we have an authority problem. We need to get back to God. But it's very difficult to come back to God if you're afraid of God, which all the false authorities have taught you to be, because you got to be afraid of somebody. So when the government wants you to be afraid of them, you then believe, oh, those who know more than me and they have positions of power, well, they're right and I'm wrong. But so I'm going to be afraid if I mess up. Well, that level of fear that was instilled in us from the get-go, because we learned to fear our father, we were told, we even had TV shows that told us father knows best. So if we don't question, if we don't have the willingness to question, is because we don't yet have the maturity to handle the truth. And if I sound like Jack Nicholson in that movie, A Few Good Men, you can't handle the truth. Well, sometimes that crack me up when this stuff comes out of me. But anyways, we have got to have another understanding about God. We must become open-minded and question. Anybody who is seeking the truth. And what the truth that we're trying to seek is because there is something inside of us that is vibrating at that level because we're made of God. We cannot not have the vibration of the truth inside of us, but it's so deep within us that we cannot feel it we cannot feel it totally. We cannot own that it is ours because our mind has so many layers, layers upon layers upon layers of misinformation that block us from accepting the truth that's inside of us. So what do? We go seeking, we go on a quest, we go looking for, teachers and books and workshops and information outside of ourselves. And that's what every one of us that discovers that the truth is within us and feel called to become a teacher of God, we can't help but share this information with others. Whether we do it publicly like I do, or we do it individually like some of you do, and you share it with your family, with your friends, you share it in small groups, but you're not going to create a business like I have, because that was just what I was guided to do. But understanding that we are operating with this need to protect lies, that's it. If you are defensive, you are protecting lies. The course is really clear. A characteristic of a teacher of God is defenselessness, one of them. Defenselessness. And we're taught in the course that in our defenselessness, our safety lies. And our safety lies in our realization of what's going on here. That's why you want to settle for the wheat, not the chaff. Because when you take the wheat, meaning you find the truth, you apply the lesson to the letter, and you do what it is told, you're going to feel the change. That change is going to feel so amazing. Not before you feel really bad, because the first thing that we discover is the lies and that we've been protecting them, but not to make ourselves feel bad or to punish ourselves, but to learn to forgive ourselves, to learn how the game is played at this frequency. This is an exciting time to be alive and understand that the course is helping us train our minds so that we can choose to play a different game, the game of love. But the love that the course teaches is not the love that the ego teaches. Ego's love is selfish, is controlling, is intolerant, it's judgmental, it's passive aggressive, it's aggressive. That kind of love, I love you if you clean your room, or I love you if you give me a big ring, or I love you if you only have eyes for me and you don't look at anybody else. I love you if you share everything that you have with me. These conditions on love is because they come from an insecure self, which is the ego. God places no conditions on love, and that's why we have total, complete freedom. Love sets everything free. Ego binds with love. Oh, we're married, you belong to me. God says, nowhere in the Bible does it says anybody has to marry anybody else. There's nothing about creating legal agreements in this world. Not one. As a matter of fact, there's a whole lesson in understanding that we must be under no laws but God's. And we need to learn God's laws. And they're very simple. You are a creator like God is, and you have free will, so you can create whatever it is that you want to create. You can make a mess out of this if you want to. And because you are a beloved child of God, like we learned in the prodigal son in the Bible, you are going to be welcomed back with open arms, no judgment, zero judgment. Love, true love, God's love, capital T, true. That is a love that allows for anything to happen because, and here's the kicker, whatever it is that you're doing on this physical plane, it does not, it does not alter who you are, does not add a thing to who you are, because you are already as whole and complete and perfect as God can created you. So we're doing all this work. We're trying to improve and get better and get healthier and clear our mind so we can be happier. We're going through those motions, but none of that is going to make you any more perfect than how God created you. That's why this work leads us to eventually just accepting that we are as God created us. And it's in that acceptance that we finally let go of the need to seek, to try and do things to get better. All that work will eventually cease when you accept that you are as God created you. That's when mastery begins. because now your mind is not so busy in trying to become anything. You are focused on the purification process of accepting what you are by releasing what you're not. I mean, it becomes a lot of fun. Yes, it really does become a lot of fun and it gets a lot easier. So we have been studying for, oh, I don't know, the last maybe month or two. Inside of A Course in Miracles, we have been in chapter 3. And in chapter 3, this particular chapter is called The Innocent Perception. And as always, I'm always guided to where to go in the book. We don't do anything here in order, usually, unless we go into one specific section like we are here, and then we complete it. If that's how I'm guided. Sometimes I'm guided to leave mid area, and that's okay because I just follow the guidance. But inside of chapter 3, inside of which is called the innocent perception, meaning we have a whole chapter to help us remember that we're innocent, to move to that perception of innocence. So we stop thinking we know everything and judging and thinking that we're right about what we're judging. So we are inside of section number 7, which is creating versus self-image. And we've read the first 5 paragraphs. Now we're going to go to paragraph number 6, which is the last one in this section. So I don't know what we're going to talk about next week because I'll be told that day. And you will learn it pretty much a few minutes after I have. So looking at this section, creating versus self-image. Creating is what God created us to do. Self-image is what the ego has made of our abilities. It has created an image of itself and it has decided I am, powerful and I'm more powerful than God. And I don't care that God says that I'm not a body and I'm free. I'm going to go around operating like I am a body. I'm going to operate like I am a victim. I'm going to operate like I'm better than others. I'm going to operate like I'm right. Well, we have done that, but we need to understand what creation is. And inside of this whole section, and if you want to go back to watch the videos for this entire section, you start with episode 197. Today we're in episode 202. So that's quite a few episodes of just this one section. So it starts off in paragraph 1 that every thought system has a starting point. This is a key thing that bears repeating, which is why I have shared it over and over again. Everything that is human made has a starting point. When I went on my journey to learn about the fear that I had about death, because I was afraid to go to hell, I had to go to the starting point of the Catholic Church where I received my indoctrination. It started in the year 325 when Emperor Constantine convened the bishops in the council, what is known as the Council of Nicaea, because it was in the town of Nicaea, and they formed the Catholic Church. That's the starting point of the Catholic Church. So, do you really think that something that's been around for not quite 2,000 years is more true than eternal truth that has been around for eternity? And that's where we begin to sort out the wheat from the chaff. The wheat is what God is and it's eternal. The chaff is what humans have made up. And when you read the story of why the emperor decided to form the Catholic Church, it was all political. It was all political and deliberately done to control the minds of people by inserting this idea of fear of God and installing a leader and eventually a pope, so that we all thought, well, we can't get to God unless we go through all of these steps. We got to go through the priest or the archbishop and all these different levels, and then eventually, if the pope graces us, then we can get to God. Well, that's not true. That's all made up. The truth is, God is inside of you. You don't need anybody to get to where God is because God is in you. You just need you to go in and meet God. But our minds have been trained to go out and follow all of these steps that make it practically impossible to ever get to God because, well, between you and God is hell. And you're going to go there if you do bad things. And didn't we all get taught that we're sinners? As a matter of fact, the newsletter that is going out probably tomorrow, maybe Friday at the latest, is about that. We are not sinners. That is a story that we have been told, and we bought it hook, line, and sinker. Our parents bought it. My sweet grandmother, the person that I adored the most as a child, that's what she taught me. And she adored me. She didn't mean to teach me a lie. She was teaching it to me because she was afraid that if she didn't, I wouldn't live a righteous life. So it was done with so much love, but it was misinformation. Just as I took my babies to get them vaccinated and thought I was doing the right thing, never really looked at anything and had them filled up with all these shots. Now we're finding out that they are, so many of them are not good for you, deliberately not good for you. Were there good things about them? Yes, in the beginning, there were parts of that that were good, well intentioned. But then what happens is the ego, when it runs companies, and it moves into positions of power, and it and what follows inevitably is greed. If we're not filled with truth, we will go to the place that we will do whatever it takes to build our self-image. And in this world of the ego, self-image is built with two things: power and money. And if you're in those positions, well, you're going to want to keep making money, and to make money, you have to stay in power. So how does that affect humanity? Well, people move into positions of power and they don't give them up because they need to continue to make money, because the mind is trained. My self-worth and my net worth are one. There's a lot that we have to unravel. That's why every thought system has a starting point. We have to be courageous and trace everything back to where it started. And we will see that none of the egoic thought systems, none of the egoic laws go back to the beginning of time. None of them go into eternity. Not one. The only laws that go into eternity are God's. You are free. You're all equal, and your purpose is to be happy. Period. If you're not feeling free because you got all these rules and regulations and laws and licenses and things that you've got to get to be okay, taxes you got to pay, things that you have to do to be okay, well, you're not free. So liberty is not there. Freedom is not there. However, it is there because you're the one choosing to play that game. And you have to use your liberty, your free will, to start questioning things. Get to the beginning of, when did this start? Who started it? Why did they start it? Was it about power and money? And you're going to find that most things in the world of the ego that are so controlling, that instill fear, are all based on the need to generate power and money. That's it. So get to the beginning of it. Then, of course, in paragraph 2, it tells us that we have been taught about the devil to frighten us like little children that we are, because our minds are very immature when we listen to the ego. We've been taught that the devil is a frightening concept. Why? Because it is very powerful and very active, because when you agree that there is a devil out there and it's going to get you, you are going to do whatever it takes to not get caught by the devil. And as we discuss in that transmission, which was 198, the devil is nothing more that, if you invert it, is the word devil is the opposite of lived. We haven't lived our lives fully because we're scared of the devil, meaning all of us are afraid of what's going to happen when we die and the devil's going to get us. But the devil is a thought system in our mind that keeps us from living life fully, because we have become dead inside. If you don't feel God, you're dead inside. You have deadened yourself, which is why so many people have addictions. If I'm going to say everybody has an addiction, we got to go find something to numb the discomfort that we feel inside, because we're so afraid the devil's going to get us. So they have done a wonderful job. In paragraph 2, sentence 6, it says, the devil deceives by lies and builds kingdoms in which everything is in direct opposition to God. There is no devil except for an untrained mind. And when an untrained mind believes that it is powerless to those in authority, and we think that the government has authority or the medical system has authority, then what happens is we will believe the lies that they tell us. They become the authority because we're not listening to God, we're listening to them. and we will do whatever they want us to do because we're afraid of for our safety. So all of these things are absolutely in alignment with what is played at this dimensional level. There's nothing wrong with that, but this is a playground in all of the cosmos, and those who are tired of this game have to wake up and do the work to purify their mind so that they can exit this game. We have the ability to do that. Why? Because we are creators. We are creators. We're not minions. Our minds are trained into becoming minions, but we give power to those who train our minds into doing that. And then we continue to look at this. We looked at the story of the tree of knowledge. Well, that is basically information that was provided to us that we ate of the tree of knowledge because we bought into different information from the truth. So yeah, we gained some knowledge, but the knowledge that we gained, and many of us go to school and catechism classes and do all of these things, and we're tested on and we pass the grade and we get certificates for all of this knowledge that we've acquired that is not even true. And we're so proud of our certificates and our, letters after our name. And all of it is to serve a, a process that has been made up by people who just want to play the game at this frequency, at this contracted dimension. Again, nothing wrong with it, but we have to train our minds to be able to see what's going on here. And then we went on to, in paragraph number 5, we learned that there is no death. This is the last sentence in that paragraph 5, as I said, where we have to let the light of truth dissolve all of those lies. And the last sentence there says, there is no death, but there is a belief in death. And while we believe in death, we will do everything we can to protect our bodies because the ego is all about preservation of the self. It's got a self-image to protect. So there is so much that has to be unraveled to free ourselves from what has happened to us. So let's look at paragraph number 6. The branch that bears no fruit will be cut off and will wither away. Be glad. The light will shine from the true foundation of life, and your own thought system will stand corrected. We need to be, if we understand what's happening, we need to be glad that the branches that bear no fruit, which is the old systems, be they financial, educational, medical, religious, those systems, those trees have not been bearing fruit that's nourished anybody. They bear fruit that fills our bellies up, but they provide no nourishment, pure chaff. And those who are done with feeling full but not feeling nourished are looking at what is happening and can see that those branches are being cut off. Those branches are breaking, they're falling down. They're falling down under the weight of their own greed and corruption. If they were telling the truth, if they were at least playing more honest than deceitful, the game could have been going on for a lot longer. But it is time because too many have woken up and are saying, you're not my authority, government. You're not my authority, institutions out there. You're not my authority. I have come to know the authority within. So we pull our energy from that. Those branches have to collapse. Be glad. It's so simple. Be glad. Why? Because the light will shine from the true foundation of life, and your own thought system will stand corrected. As we've been studying inside of in the Awareness Academy, in the foundation stage that people have elected to be a part of, we've been doing a class called Advanced A Course in Miracles. We started at the very beginning of the course. We're starting with, chapter 1. Well, actually, we started with the introduction and then chapter 1, and we'll be in chapter 1 for a little while because we're not going to rush through this, but we're breaking down what a miracle is. We're talking about the process of purification. There are some people who've had experienced powerful healings because we're taking what is being discussed and applying it into our lives. And one of the things that we must do is to become to become an observer of these two belief systems and then go through the process of purification, because that's the miracle. We shift our perception, we change what we're thinking. But that is only possible for those who have the courage and the willingness to be wrong about what they've been believing. If we don't come into this open-minded, then everything I say or anything the Course in Miracles says sounds like nonsense. And I thought that too, because my self-image was very righteous. But until I made the conscious decision, and by conscious means I said to myself, Lina, maybe everything I've been believing is wrong. What will it hurt to just accept this information here and go practice it for a couple of days? I don't have to give up my house. I don't have to give up my first, born child. I don't have to do anything other than in my own mind, consider the possibility that I was wrong. And I will be proven right or wrong after I spend a couple of days with these principles and practice these lessons to the letter. And as I was practicing these lessons, I was beginning to realize, oh my gosh, there's so much freedom. I was feeling peace by accepting that I am as God created me, that I am not I'm not just this body. All of a sudden, at first it was scary and then it was liberating. And that's what happens with everything in the Course. At first, it scares us because it scares the ego that doesn't want its story unraveled. But then it liberates us because our soul can come forward. Our soul, our innocence can come out and play in total, complete freedom. But your soul cannot come out until you tell your ego, down boy, down girl, you're not the boss of me. But you have to be comfortable acknowledging that maybe you are wrong about everything. And I do mean everything. And what you begin to realize is that as you do the work as it is told, as you accept this, oh, the devil is, as it says in here, the devil is deceives by lies. So everything about the devil is a lie. Well, then maybe there's no devil. Do you know how many Christian people have a hard time with that? What do you mean there's no? Of course there's a devil. Well, if you're not prepared to courageously override your own thinking and go, well, maybe what if everything about the devil is a lie? You cannot enter into this path of transformation because you're set in defending your position. And the beautiful thing about this work of admitting that maybe we are wrong is you do that in the privacy of your own mind, because that's where the battleground is. That is where the battle takes place, is in your own mind. You have concepts that go into opposition with the truth. But the only one who can override it is you, because you, the observer, are the referee in your own head. You're the one who says, no, I'm not going to accept this. And when you practice saying no to the ego, little by little, you build even more courage. You feel more confident. You begin to override your need to judge others. You begin to override the need to be right. You tell yourself internally, you know what? If Aunt Susie wants to be right, so what? If Uncle Bob wants to be right, so what? Let them be right. It doesn't change anything if they're set on that this is what happened on this date and this is how it was. Let them think that. So what? If you don't need to defend it, you find a level of safety in sitting back and observing. It's a beautiful thing to just watch people defend their positions and you realize it's not the way it was, or those are not the facts. But so what? If that's what brings them joy, is to be righteous, you know that they cannot take yours away because yours is God-given. And you are grounded in your peace that you do not have to defend a single thing. But to get to that, you must do what it says here. You must let the light of truth shine. You must illuminate your mind. You must be willing to look at the truth and compare it with what you've been believing. That's how you know what is wheat, what is chaff. That's how you know how to sort things out. And you will know the truth of the wheat because you will experience the peace that comes with it. Not usually at first. Sometimes it takes a couple of times. Sometimes it takes 100 times. And then all of a sudden you feel it. But boy, when you feel it, you cannot go back. You cannot go back to being righteous. You cannot go back to being judgmental or fearful. You can't do that because then you know you got to lower your vibration. You got to contract yourself and make yourself pretty uncomfortable. And once you decide to do what the Course says, I'd rather be happy than right, your life will change dramatically. Dramatically. That's what is meant by the peace that passes all understanding. Once you feel that peace, you don't need to be right about anything. You can let the world go on believing whatever madness they want to believe. It doesn't matter. You're not affected because you connect to the truth and the truth sets you free. And it's absolutely amazing. But I can only tell you about my experience. I can't, snap my fingers or wave a wand and have you have it. You have to do the work to experience this. Then it tells us in sentence 4, it cannot stand otherwise. Basically, it's saying this, the thought system of the ego will not stand. It cannot when you shine the light of truth on it. Sentence 5 says, you who fear salvation are choosing death. I cannot emphasize enough that statement. If you are choosing fear, you are choosing death. And the reason you're choosing death is because you're going to be paralyzed inside, which is the same as dead inside. And when you are believing that death is real, you're going to be in fear. And if you've been taught that you're a sinner and you're going to go to hell for eternity, you're going to be in serious fear your whole life. You're going to be worried. As little Catholic children, and not just Catholics, my Jewish friends, my Methodist friends, my Baptist friends. Of course, all of that is under the banner of Christianity, all those different denominations. And I mean, and just the fact that we have so many denominations tells you that there's something off with the whole Christianity movement because different people have different opinions, which is why it's all egoically made. If it was based on God's truth, it would all be the same everywhere. Nobody would have to interpret anything or have to break away because it would be the truth. And Jesus came to teach us the truth. Love your neighbor as yourself and love God. That's it. But we can't love our neighbors because we don't love ourselves. We hate on our neighbors because we're projecting our own inner hate. And we hate ourselves because we're sick and tired of fighting, of worrying, of constantly being vigilant to need to be right and protect ourselves. So these statements are so simple. You who fear salvation are choosing death. To want salvation means to give up being right because you're giving up being right about a thought system that has a starting point that was started by those who were operating from fear themselves of losing their power and losing their finances, money and power. That is all that the ego is about. Because since it doesn't know what it is, it did not build a house on a foundation that is solid. It doesn't know that it is eternal. It doesn't know that as a creator, it can create whatever it wants. So our minds have been shut down and we have stopped being creators. We're still creating our reality, but we stop being conscious creators. And when we stop being conscious creators, we become unconscious minions. We become worker bees that are feeding the system that continue to send the money up the food chain to those that we have been conditioned to believe are the authority and they know better how to spend their money. And how do you like so far the way the government's spending your hard-earned money? If you're not finding joy in that and what is being done, then it's because you are recognizing that our resources should not go to hurt our brothers and sisters. We were told to love our neighbors as ourselves. Would we come and bomb our own house? We wouldn't do that. So why are we bombing our neighbors' houses? So there is so much that needs to be unraveled, but that requires a level of courage to question what you believe. And that is where this whole journey starts, with a willingness to see things differently. And see things differently, sometimes it just means, well, I'm going to get a self-help book, and I want to make my garden better, or I want to be a better, mechanic of my car. Or I want to be a better cook, or a better financial person. It usually starts with that. I just want to make things a little bit better. And then you learn it and you make it better, and you realize, but I'm still not happy. I became a better cook and a better mechanic, and I've got a pretty garden, but I'm still not happy. Why? Because then now you're coming closer to what's really going on. That desire to seek new information is always, always going to lead to a return inside to claim the truth of who we are. And that's when we have to separate, sort out the wheat from the chaff. So the next sentence says, that's why we fear salvation, because we have to do work. We got to purify the mind. We got to go in there and excavate. We got to take our little shovel and dig up all that old shit from the past and look at it and go, oh my gosh, boy, was I misinformed. And forgive those people who pass that down to us. All of that turns all that shit into fertilizer. Then you can begin to let it work for you, and it'll nourish the ground that you're working in. Because when you go inside, you're dealing with sacred ground. There is the essence of the truth of who you are buried deep down inside of all that nonsense. But you cannot retrieve the jewel, the essence of who you are, your spirit, your soul, the presence of the Christic consciousness within you. You can't retrieve that if you don't go digging for what's covering it up. It's really that simple. It's that simple. So sentence 6 says, life and death, light and dark, knowledge and perception are irreconcilable. They are opposites. They're as opposites as that drawing is. That is the ego. Yes, when we operate inside of a darkened perception, God is in there because light is inside of us. That's the jewel that we're trying to get to. To get to that jewel, you got to question why you believe in jealousy. Why do you believe in selfishness, in greed, in betrayal? Why do you believe in revenge? You got to question all of those things. Why do you believe in lack? Why do you believe in illness? Why do you believe in death? Because you were taught that. So go back to where you learned it. Get back to every thought system has a beginning point. Go back to the beginning and say, all right, grandma, grandpa, church, whoever, thank you. No, thank you. I'm done with that. I used it. It served me. I created my suffering, but I'm ready for salvation. I'm not afraid of salvation anymore. Salvation means I got to go look at, what does God think about that? And inside of our human experience, we're still going to have a little ego in there because we're still going to believe that we're separate. But that little bit of ego is not going to run your life. This much ego doesn't let you feel the spirit in you. But to get to that place, you have to do the work. Every one of us has to do the work. Those are thought systems that are irreconcilable. You cannot justify death of a neighbor when you are saying that you believe in eternal life for you and for everybody else. If you want freedom for you, you cannot go trying to put your neighbor in bondage. Those are irreconcilable, and it makes conflict in our mind. It has us feel bipolar, that we're okay with paying to bomb, that country, this country, whatever, or hurt this person. That's okay, but don't do it to me. It creates such a split in our mind that our mind has to go through an incredible amount of training to correct that we have accepted that which is in opposition to exist at the same time, which is why the battleground is inside. We got to go in there and see that. Where are things okay for you, but not for your sister or your brother or your neighbor or your child or, or your parent? How do you give yourself permission for certain things and then deny those things to others? That is, you know, why we have to question everything. Anybody who's trying to tell you that you have to do something because it's the law, but it goes against what inside God is guiding you to do, that's irreconcilable. That's why we saw the split during COVID of so many people who took a side. I'm going to take the pill, I'm not, or the shot, I'm not going to take it. And how many people were at odds with each other? These people who wanted the right to do whatever they wanted with their bodies didn't want these people to have the right to do what they wanted to do with their bodies. So we have to understand that anything that seeks to control another is not loving, because love is freedom. They go hand in hand. God has given us the freedom to do whatever we want. We must give everybody the freedom to do what they want. That's when the healing really begins, is a recognition of our equality. So we can't have these double standards in our mind. So to believe that they can be reconciled is to believe that God and his son cannot. To believe that you can reconcile good and evil is to think that we cannot reconcile with God, because when you discover that God is love, you cannot reconcile evil. So where did the evil come from? Where did the devil come from? Not from God, but from minds that are so immature, that are so selfish and greedy, that we create things to defend and protect ourselves. But that only keeps us at war with the world. So to break this down and really see what is going on, again, requires the greatest amount of courage, the willingness to possibly be wrong, and just be open-minded. Sentence 8 says, only the oneness of knowledge is free of conflict. If you know God's truth, your mind is at peace. That's where the peace that passes all understanding comes from, because you have access to the mind of God, which is your mind ultimately, but you can't think with that mind because you've been trained to think with the egoic belief system. So we have to undo that egoic belief system and get to the truth of God. We're all one. What you do to your neighbor, you're doing to yourself. So to hate on your neighbor is a projection of your self-hate. To think that it is okay to bomb them and hurt them, or that they should take a shot that they don't want to take, is to ultimately acknowledge this. Basically, it's not even acknowledge, it's proof of your own inner conflict, because you wouldn't want those things done to you. You don't want to be forced to do things that you don't want to do, but you then want to justify that it's okay to force it on somebody else. That, that's why we got to get past these things that divide us, these two political systems that stop picking a side. Pick the candidate that is the most in integrity. Don't pick sides, because if you pick sides, you will have a battleground in your mind. You will be at war in your mind with anybody who didn't pick your side. That doesn't unite us, that divides us. So we have to, as we train our mind, move out of picking sides. And yes, of course, so many people know that I voted, and I voted for a candidate, but not because they were of one party or another. I voted because I was voting for the candidate that I felt had the highest integrity in the game. Not the ultimate integrity, which is God's integrity, but in the game, who has more integrity? And most everybody in this game is operating in these low frequencies. So I just picked the highest frequency among the low frequency. And that's how you play the game. You realize that it is a game, and you free your mind from judging, and you just feel for the resonance. Who's vibrating at a higher frequency of truth in a world of lies? That's all you have to do. So it's not that you're picking the one that is totally telling the truth, but they're telling a little more truth than the rest. So sentence 9 says, your kingdom is not of this world, because it was given you from beyond this world. Take that literally. Who I am is not of this world. That means I come from the cosmos. I come from something that is infinite. I need to open my mind. What is the reality is not just what's on this planet. There is so much more. Open up to the vastness of this universe. That is a universe among universes. Come to know the mind that knows all of that. So you can't be focused in daily minutia if you want to expand into the awareness of the all that isness. That requires that your mind has been trained enough to be quiet enough for you to move beyond the known, to open up to what else is there. There is so much going on. It's like now in these congressional meetings, all these people that are coming up and saying that they have talked to aliens and that the government has been working with aliens. Doesn't that blow your freaking mind? And in a good way. It's like, what? There's intelligence out there. They're not all just bad people, bad beings trying to hurt us. If God is love, then what else is out there must be loving as well. However, it doesn't mean that there aren't egoic beings in other planets too. So that could very well be happening. But when we open our mind and we move out of the busyness of my to-do calendar and what I got to get accomplished and got to work my 40 hours, I got to get my paycheck, I got to go to the grocery store, I got to pay the rent, I got to pay the mortgage, I got to pay the taxes, I got to pay the insurance, I got to put gas in the car. If your mind is not just boggled down in the minutia, all chaff, yes, you feel accomplished because you check things on your to-do list, but there's no nourishment in that. That's just pure repetitive nonsense that we've been conditioned to do over and over and over again. And it blocks us from accessing the creativity that allows us to be at a place that we can say, God, who are you? What are you? Show me the way. Show me your way. And in that, the inspiration comes to reactivate our creativity. But our creativity cannot be activated. You're busy like a hamster on a wheel. And that's what we've all been conditioned to do. And what does that do? The only thing that they say is real is death and taxes, both total lies. So you go to your death having paid taxes, and who benefits from that? Those in positions of power with greed. Not everybody in positions of power are greedy, and not every greedy person has a position of power. You need to understand that. So that is all over the place. But when we begin to hear the voice for God, activate our discernment that allows us to separate the wheat and the chaff at all levels. Isn't it exciting to know that this truth is available to us? And when you find out my kingdom is not of this world, because it was given to me from beyond this world, God is clear in the Course in Miracles. It did not make this world. Yes, it created this planet, but it didn't make the world of greed and anger and revenge and war. It didn't make any of that. That's all ego made. And that's what we're learning to differentiate from what is God's and is eternal. So these are fabulous times because the light of truth is being shown on what is not loving and what is not godly. Sentence 10 says, only in this world is the idea of an authority problem meaningful. Let that sink in. Only in this world, in this third dimensional plane, only the idea of authority, of an authority problem, meaning we give authority outside of ourselves. That's only possible and meaningful here. So when you come to know your true authority, you won't be playing this game of giving your power to anybody outside of yourself. And today, it's those people who have courage to go against the authorities before a lot of them used to get put to death. Some of them still do. But today, there are a lot of them who are rising into positions of power, and they're going in there without the greed, and they're going in there to do things that are for the greater good of all because they have felt that truth inside. Sentence 11 says, the world is not left by death, but by truth. And truth can be known by all those for whom the kingdom was created and for whom it waits. Isn't that good news? The truth is known by all those for whom the kingdom was created. We were created by God for God. God created us so that we would be its beautiful expressions, like the children that I gave birth to. I had those babies, made those babies so that I could experience the joy of being a mother. God has so much joy in being our parent, but until we return and say, okay, God, show me the way out of here. We can't experience the benefits of the kingdom because our mind blocks us from knowing the truth of who we are. Powerful beings using our power so measly, on a hamster wheel. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but there's so much more than a hamster wheel. So much more than death and taxes. But we get to the liberation that comes with the courage to say no to this oppression. But we have to look at our fears in leaving those systems. Because when we look at the fears, if that scares you to not do those things, then that shows you where you are in bondage to an external authority, just for your own information, so that you can come inside and go, what if I was wrong about all that? What if all of that is not the truth? And you just begin to explore, get online, begin to Google other options. You're going to find a plethora of information of lots of people who have left systems and they're doing just fine and contributed to creating the new systems, the new financial systems, the new way of doing medicine, which is really the old way, which is going back to natural things, the new education systems, which have been around for a while in the one room, schoolhouses and homeschooling. So the ways of doing things differently are there. But if you are scared to venture out because of the punishment that could come, then you are not ready for salvation. You are still needing to stay in bondage. It sounds good, but your need to be right that this is the only way will keep you bound. And in bondage, you will remain a slave to the system until your death. But then you discover when you have the death experience, oh, that was just a game. I didn't have to do it that way. But it's what I chose. You won't blame yourself. As a matter of fact, you're going to want to reincarnate and come back again and go, let me try this again. And right now, we are in the midst of an acceleration of awakening. What that means is we are being fully supported. Anybody who gets curious but has the courage to do the work is going to experience an acceleration in their process. Things are going to click faster. They're going to be able to experience the past and the trauma and the pain. They're going to be able to move through that a lot faster. And it's happening faster because the window for ascension has a time frame. You got to choose. Am I going up the spiral or do I want to stay here? That's the only thing that's happening. The whole ascension process is simply, what do you want? See, we're so free that God lets us choose more bondage or more freedom. And we're not going to be judged for either choice. We're just going to experience the result of our choosing. And we are loved and we are holy and we are innocent in God's eyes because we're just playing a game that at the end of the day does not alter what we are. It just gives us an experience that may be a little prickly, but if that's what you want, that's what you want. And that's why I love sharing what I know, because what I have felt, what I know to be truth in me, and what I've seen change the lives of so many, because I want to make this available for those that it resonates with. Because I don't see anybody as wrong that doesn't follow this path. I just see you as a powerful creator choosing the reality you want to experience. Whether you're aware of it or not, you're always choosing. And those that resonates with and go, huh, what? I I am choosing this life that I'm not enjoying? Yeah. Are you still in it? Then you're choosing it. Because nobody's making you stay in that situation. Nobody's making you stay in disagreements with your family members or with your boss or whatever. Nobody's making you be in any situation you're in. Unless you're in a jail somewhere and you're bound and your body is there, but your mind is still free to perceive it however you want to perceive it. And that's what the Course in Miracles is all about, to free your mind, even if you're in physical bondage. But in truth, all that you're going to discover is that you've always been free to think whatever you want to think, and your thoughts create your reality. So don't argue with your experience. Go inside and choose to see the contrast of your opposing thoughts And when you can see them objectively, you will realize there is wheat that will nourish you. Have more of that. And there is chaff that fills you up, but doesn't provide an ounce of joy. Let that go. And you don't even need to let it go as much as you need to just do what the course is telling you to have more of this. It really, truly is that simple. Truth is so simple. But the only thing that keeps us from making that choice that sets us free is the fear that we are wrong because we're trying to hold on to being right. And when we are willing to just consider the possibility that we were wrong, that we're wrong about everything, your whole world begins to shift. Because when you're open to the possibility that you were wrong, you're going to discover everything that is actually right about you and right about the world. That's really what happens is you're infused with so much goodness. That's all I've got. End of the transmission. So if anybody has any comments that you want to share, by all means, unmute yourselves and share them. Otherwise, as always, I'll see you next Wednesday at 12 o'clock Eastern Standard Time every week. Miss Susie, good to hear from you, sweetie.
Good to see y'all. What I thought of was that I'm a hoarder. I'm a hoarder of those lies. You know, I just said I could laugh at that, but of all the different things when he talks about to believe that they can be reconciled, it's to believe that God is his son cannot. But that hoarding of me protecting all those lies, it's exciting to realize that it can be corrected inside of me. It's not something that has to be changed on the lies that I've heard or believed in. It's changing that I believe them.
Yeah,
You know,
exactly.
that
Yes,
authority is with that authority that I get to choose of oneness is within me. It's not has anything to do with changing what's outside except how I perceive it.
yeah, exactly. I mean, that's it. That's it. And because we're hoarding those lies and we just got so many of them in our head and we can't even move around because there's so many lies stacked up one on top of the other on top of the other, that it makes it difficult to navigate our own mind. So it does require that we start somewhere. I mean, I've watched, back in my TV watching days, enough shows about hoarders, and the only way to empty the house was to take out one box at a time.
Declutter, declutter.
Declutter one at a time. I never saw like a crane come in and shake the house so everything would fall out at once. You take out one box at a time, one lie at a time. Just look at them. Anything that is causing discomfort and pain and suffering, that's a lie. You're believing a lie because God created us to be happy. So if it's not a happy thought, if it's not a joyful experience, you're believing a lie.
Yeah.
Period. End of story. And if we don't accept it as the truth, then we won't do this work. We won't do this work, or we'll do it half-ass. But that's okay. Like I said, it's all good. God doesn't punish anybody. So, all right,
Thank you.
anybody else?
I have a question.
Yes, Richard.
What page are you on?
I what do you mean? In my Course in Miracles?
Yeah, what do you read? I spent the whole time trying to figure out where you were reading from.
Oh, really? Well, so this is a second edition, and in the second edition, I'm on page 51. Now, in the third edition, which I also
It's
have,
the same. It's the same on the third.
it's the same on the third edition? All
Mhm.
right. So what page were you on, Richard?
Well, when you said chapter 3, I went to innocent perception.
Yeah.
But
Section 7, creating versus self-image.
okay, you just finished up
Section 7.
page 51.
Yep.
Okay.
The last
No,
paragraph.
I wasn't on 7. I was looking through the other ones looking for it. I thought you said 3 to begin with. And then you said something about 6, so I went to 6. I never got as far as 7, so I was always looking for
Oh, 6 was the paragraph in
yeah,
section 7 in chapter 3. Sorry if
okay.
I went too fast and Well, I hope you didn't spend too much time trying to look for it in the course and more hearing the message because
Well, that's what I was concentrating on. I'm current on most of your stuff because I've been following the videos, and I like that because I can pause it and write where we're at. But I was lost today. I've
oh,
read it, I've read this 3 or 4 times, but as far as location, I don't have it.
well, listen, thank goodness. We may have the experience of being lost, but we are found because we are safe in the mind of God. So no worries, brother. I'm so glad that you're here. You joined us live and not just watching the video. And come because you're part of the foundation's stage. So come to some of the live classes, the Advanced Course in Miracles classes. They're lively. They're fun. These
Yeah.
ladies are in there.
Yeah. We'd
Or
love to have you.
or watch it, if it feels more comfortable at your leisure. But yes, it's so wonderful being with a community that is wanting to get to the same destination, which is total liberation from egoic cluttering. Well, guys, I love you all so much. I will
Okay.
see some of you all in class or in book club or whatever. I'll see some of you again this week a few more times.
Yes,
Take
absolutely.
care.
Love you, Case. Nice to meet you, Richard.
I've
Bye,
seen you in the videos, Susie.
Okay.
She's a funny one.
Maybe we'll get to see you some more, Richard.
Yes, ditto.
Nice meeting you, Richard.
Nice meeting you, Stacy.
Bye, everybody.
Love you, girls. See you tonight.
All right. See
Yeah.
ya.